Iran is a country that, over the past 30 years, has managed to extend its control to the fringes of a vast empire with strong bases in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and several other countries at various levels of power and influence. For many Arab states, Iran is considered a major enemy, while for others, it is an important ally, and globally, Iran is a complex number, difficult to understand and handle within the political and military balance equation of the Middle East. In today's episode, we will explore the military strength of Iran. We will analyze Iran's war strategy and together understand the 5 pillars of Iranian deterrence doctrine and how this doctrine is linked to the modern concept of hybrid warfare. In June 2019, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard shot down an American unmanned drone over the Strait of Hormuz using their domestically produced Khordad air defense system. This incident occurred amid high tensions in the Arab Gulf region and almost sparked a war between Iran and the United States, had it not been for then-President Donald Trump calling off a retaliatory American strike at the last moment. However, the event highlighted Iran's deterrence capabilities. Most Western officials view Iran's military strategy as inherently offensive, aimed at enhancing Iran's power to restore the borders of the Persian Empire. Some officials see it as primarily defensive. I believe both views lack precision. It's neither purely offensive nor defensive. In reality, it encompasses nearly all elements of advanced defense, accompanied by a provocative and hostile policy by Iran towards its enemies, which can make it appear offensive, but its main goal is deterrence. Who does it aim to deter? Primarily, its strategic enemies, notably the United States and its allies in the region, particularly the Arab Gulf states, from any attempt to exclude it from regional power calculations, invade it, overthrow its government, or deal a crippling blow to its military capabilities. Before you watch the episode, I want to ask you a question and I'd like your response in the comments. Do you think Iran is capable of achieving the necessary deterrence against the United States and its allies? The restrictions on Iranian armaments since the Islamic Revolution in 1979 and the toll of the Iran-Iraq War have significantly reduced Iran's conventional military capabilities, forcing it to strengthen unconventional military capabilities, including alliances with state-level militant organizations, and build a high deterrence capability, as it's a military power unable to directly confront threats or challenges. Iran focuses on the vulnerabilities of its main adversaries to make the cost-return calculations unfavorable for attacking Iran. For instance, Iranians are well aware that American casualties have heavy political consequences internally in the United States, which the American leadership struggles to bear. This understanding has led Iran to develop its strategy on multiple levels to deter military actions against it, particularly American military action, by increasing the cost of war for its adversaries. The Iranian military strategy is based on 5 main pillars or determinants, which I will list and explain in detail. 1. The historical and permanent likelihood of military confrontation with the United States. There is no trust in America. 2. Iran must rely on itself for armament because no one else will provide it. 3. Tightening military spending and investing wisely due to sanctions and because the economy is perpetually exhausted. 4. Adopting an asymmetric or non-symmetrical deterrence strategy, as all its adversaries are much stronger than it. 5. Iran's geopolitical situation in the region, which forces it to compete and possibly fight over interests. Let's elaborate on this point. The lack of trust between Iranians and Americans dates back to before the Iranian Revolution. Trust between them collapsed in 1953 when the Americans and British organized a coup against the elected Iranian Prime Minister Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh because he wanted to nationalize the Iranian oil industry. This step would have brought Iran closer to the Soviet Union and threatened Western interests in the Gulf region. From the time of the coup, problems have persisted between the two parties. The Iranian people have not forgotten the American support for the last repressive Shah regime, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, nor the American support for Saddam Hussein during the Iran-Iraq War. And the Iranian leadership is always sure that the Americans seek to destroy the Islamic Republic and overthrow its government and change its system. How does America change political systems? By military invasion. That's why Iran has built its military strategy on the basis of ensuring a strong and rapid reaction to any American attempt to invade Iran or deter any American military action targeting the regime of the mullahs in Tehran. The 8 years of the Iran-Iraq War had an impact on the Iranian military strategy. The Iranian missile program was originally a result of this war when Saddam began invading Iran in 1980. Iran requested Scud-B missiles from the Soviet Union, which was then an ally of Iraq, which was receiving weapons from both Russia and America. Iran got its Scud missiles from Libya, Syria, and North Korea. North Korea sold Iran 200 to 300 Scud missiles and a quantity of surface-to-air missiles and fighters and armored vehicles right after the war. But Iranian military spending is minimal and continues to dwindle over time and does not compare to the astronomical military spending of the Arab Gulf states. The GCC countries' military spending annually exceeds $130 billion. Iran spends less than $25 billion. And let's say that the Iranians have not forgotten the financial and military support provided by the Arab Gulf states to Saddam Hussein during the Iraq-Iran War. Before and after Saddam Hussein's era, Iraq was one of the main strategic enemies of Iran. After the American invasion of Iraq in 2003, the situation completely reversed, and Iraq became an ally of Iran, and Iran saw that it needed to protect itself from any proxy war against it that might arise in Iraq. That's why the Iranian military strategy based on deterrence is as prepared for an American invasion as it is for proxy wars in a vital neighboring country like Iraq. A quick look at the map of American interests in the region will tell you that America will definitely be a party to any attempt to invade Iran. That's why Iran must study and assess American military tactics, which you definitely know. Destroying air defenses before launching any ground operations, disabling command and control centers and communications, and, of course, launching a full electronic strike. Striking infrastructure and asserting air sovereignty in the field of battle. These are the main features of any American invasion, and we add to them a bit of spectacle and show of force that the Americans always do. Aircraft carriers and attack ship groups and major bases in the Middle East and strategic bombers are part of this show, which, of course, aims to destroy the morale of the opponent. To counter this tactic, Iran designed an asymmetric strategy. What is this asymmetric strategy? North Korea, China, and Russia are masters of this method, by the way. But what does it mean? As I said a while ago, it's a way to deter your stronger enemy. How? To achieve asymmetric or non-symmetrical deterrence, you need to achieve two things. First, anti-access, which is denying the opponent access to the locations it's supposed to control. In short, it doesn't pass. How do we achieve this anti-access? We account for it in ballistic missiles and cruise missiles and submarines and air and space systems like satellites and drones and radars everywhere. And we prepare for electronic disruption attacks. And we prepare to deploy special operations forces ready to engage in conventional and unconventional combat. Second, area denial, which is depriving the opponent of its capabilities inside national territory or in operational areas. In other words, I said at first it doesn't pass, but if it passes, if it reaches inside my land, then I deprive it of its capabilities inside this land. I don't let it step on it comfortably. Based on this idea, you will find that Iranian deterrent strategies are also based on 5 basic pillars. 1. Fixed and mobile air defense systems. 2. Artillery and rocket artillery and ballistic missiles. 3. Electronic or cyber warfare. 4. Limited use of air forces. 5. The extraordinary deployment of naval forces. So, dear General, you have the general structure of the Iranian military strategy, and we will focus on entering into the detail of the 5 pillars of the Iranian deterrent strategy. We started with fixed and mobile air defense systems, which are equipment of special importance in the Iranian military strategy, as long as Americans' main operational targets are to achieve air sovereignty. Then the Iranians prepare with what deprives the Americans of this sovereignty. The most important element in the Iranian air defense system is the integrated network that works to coordinate monitoring and radar systems that all branches of the Iranian armed forces use. All branches of the Iranian armed forces use the radar network, and because America's Air Force is equipped with air-to-surface missiles that know how to hunt radars and use air defense networks, Iran has turned to manufacturing mobile systems like the Khordad air defense system, which includes medium and high-altitude Sayyad-2 ground-to-air missiles that operate on solid fuel and are constantly moved from their location. This system can engage with 4 targets at the same time at a range of 50 to 75 kilometers and at an altitude of 25 to 30 kilometers. And because it is a small, fast-moving system, it's a main pillar in Iran's asymmetric tactics, especially in area denial operations or depriving the opponent of its capabilities in operational areas above national soil. And the Khordad system, as I said at the beginning of the episode, is the one that shot down the American drone in June 2019. We have finished the fixed and mobile air defenses. Let's move on to the ballistic missiles. Quite simply, Iran has turned to relying on missiles because it can't afford to buy or manufacture warplanes. In our current era, missiles are the poor man's alternative to owning a strong air force. This is what Iran learned from the Scud missiles it acquired in the 80s and saw their impact on Iraq. Currently, Iran has the largest missile program in the entire Middle East, with the exception of the older and more advanced Egyptian missile program in manufacturing capabilities. Egypt surpassed the range of 1,000 kilometers with a payload of 1,000 kilograms before Iran started its program by years, and now it has a sophisticated and diverse arsenal. The missile capabilities have allowed Iran to improve its ability to deny the enemy entry into its territory, as it now has the ability to target military bases and aircraft carriers in the region. The missile program has given Iran a great opportunity to demonstrate its strength with launch tests and military maneuvers, and this is not just a matter of appearance. It's a procedure that strengthens its deterrence capability, and to protect this arsenal of missiles, Iran relies on mobile launch platforms, or platforms hidden in tunnels and distributed throughout the country, and these things make it impossible for the enemy to direct a preemptive strike against it. There are also estimates that say that Iran seeks to possess intercontinental ballistic missiles with the goal of threatening the United States itself, or any of its interests spread around the world. But this is still just an ambition for Iran, because the maximum range of its missiles today does not exceed 2,000 kilometers, and this range is much less than the ranges of intercontinental or transcontinental missiles. Forget about all this talk. What matters to us is that we see that Iran uses its missiles in deterrence, and this is something it has done since its war with Iraq. There's also a direction that caught my eye and I liked very much from the Iranian leadership, which is improving the accuracy of its short-ranged missiles like the Fateh 110 missile instead of increasing its range. Why? Because precise short-range missiles are the most suitable weapon to achieve anti-access and area denial, because it specifically targets aircraft carriers, and this is a very, very, very valuable target in any war with the United States. Because sinking a single aircraft carrier not only ends the war, this can bring down a government in America, and this is the heart of the doctrine of asymmetric deterrence. I make your attack on me cost you more than it gains you. Over the past 10 years, Iran has developed a range of electronic warfare capabilities, including tactical communications equipment on the battlefield, command and control devices, and devices that jam military satellites and encryption systems. There are reports that say that some Iranian radar systems have a range of up to 500 kilometers. In an incident that happened in December 2011, in which Iran hijacked an advanced American drone of the RQ-107 model. This means that the Iranians have bypassed the drone's guidance system, which is a serious indicator of its capabilities in electronic warfare. Iran has also developed intelligence gathering technology useful in waging electronic warfare. Hezbollah used this technology during its 2006 war with Israel to neutralize Israeli electronic warfare capabilities, and the evidence of this is the failure of the Israeli systems to obstruct Hezbollah's communications and Hezbollah's ability to eavesdrop on Israeli communications inside Lebanon. And Hezbollah's electronic interference with Barak anti-missile missiles aboard Israeli warships, and Israel's inability to jam communications with the Iranian embassy in Beirut. We join with electronic warfare, cyber warfare, and internet attacks, and this is something that doesn't have clear statistics because it's a war that happens in the dark. We don't see anything from it. But the overall testimony is that Iranian capabilities in this area are improving. Let's come to the most thing that will clarify for you the policy of asymmetric or non-symmetric deterrence. If there is still someone among you, who I haven't clarified the picture for, namely the limited use of air forces. When your strategic enemy is the United States, it's natural that your defensive system be diverse and widespread and multimodal in transport and movement fixed and portable and in the hands of soldiers and carried on trucks and electronic artillery and anti-aircraft artillery. There is no room at all for you not to do so. This is understood by necessity. But you go crazy and think to enter direct air battles with American aviation, you would be committing suicide. The solution is that you make a strong defense against American aviation and take the available share of air sovereignty with other alternatives like drones, whether surveillance or interceptive or offensive, and save your aviation if you have aviation because it would be a loss without benefit. As for the naval forces, we find that the Iranian military doctrine is mainly based on high-speed boats and anti-ship cruise missiles. This philosophy has its reference in the Iran-Iraq War, during which the Iranian forces carried out many attacks on Iraqi forces using high-speed boats because they are low-cost attacks that definitely achieve more results than their losses. Of course, high-speed boats are not a golden solution to all the problems of naval power disparity, because many weapons systems can erase them from existence or stop their danger. That's why Iran has a different way. Iran has between 3,000 and 5,000 boats ready to engage in attacks in large numbers. About 100 boats in one attack, and those that are destroyed are destroyed. The important thing is that there is one boat that will escape and will collide with its target in a suicide collision. And how wonderful if this attack is carried out in the Strait of Hormuz, which is only about 32 kilometers wide. And the success rate of this type of attack in the strait is not simple. This is in addition to the short-range missiles I talked about a while ago, which are also designated to target ships, as well as naval mines that, if they don't destroy the ships, simply their presence disrupts the enemy's ability to move and assemble. I won't talk about strategic depth or about Iran's employment of armed groups in other countries, such as the Houthis in Yemen, or Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Shiite militias in Iraq, and how it might use groups loyal to it in waging proxy wars against its enemies. I won't talk about its political influence in its national security environment, because this episode is focused on the Iranian military doctrine. I will talk about the application of the Iranian strategy. Deterrence capabilities are no longer exclusive to the great powers. On the contrary, ideas of asymmetric deterrence are more available in the hands of medium and small powers in a concentrated manner, and available in the hands of groups as well, not only states, and Iran is no exception. The exception is that Iran has the courage to use its deterrence capability in the denial of space to a greater extent than many countries. An example of this is its provocative actions against American ships in the Gulf or against oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, whether by itself or by proxy. Provocative actions are part of the deterrent strategy because they at least remind its enemies that it is willing and able to make them lose. Despite the threats that Iran constantly receives from militarily larger powers like Israel or America, or even its Arab neighbors in the Gulf, Iran still lives in relative security to this day after decades of these threats, which means that its deterrent strategy is effective. Otherwise, its enemies would have attacked it strongly. Washington and its allies may say that Iran does not have enough deterrence and its strategy is not effective and is nothing, and all it does is just provocation and expansion greater than its regional capability. But no one can deny that Iran's active work on its deterrent strategy is an indicator of a non-traditional approach that it was forced to turn to because of sanctions and siege, and that it was able, at least to some extent, to compensate for the deficiency it has by adopting this policy and this method, and to confront the threats imposed on it whether from the United States or from Israel. And also, on the other side, let's be realistic. Iran does not seek to be a great power and will not become one in the near future. Its main, and perhaps only goal, is to possess a deterrent power to protect it from becoming an easy bite under the teeth of the great powers that threaten it. Why do I say that it's not going in the direction of the great powers? Because the great powers have a completely different strategic design from the mousy approach that Iran operates with.